Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello everyone and welcome along to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. Ciarán, Whelan and Davy, Burke are with us to reflect on the weekend and the draw, which is hot off the presses this morning. So if you haven't seen it, we already knew we were going to have Kerry Armagh in one quarter final. The other three pairings, Dublin, Tyrone, Galway, Meath, Monaghan, Donegal. I would feel the angst of the Dublin fans, Ciarán, when they were drawn to play against Tyrone, because I don't know, I just got the sense that maybe it was the one draw that they might have been a little bit apprehensive about getting.
Yeah, I'd say, Jacqui, but listen, considering the league game maybe where they went up there and Tyrone probably gave them a bit of a trimming and control that game, or 10 points up at points. Listen, it's an interesting draw. There's nothing easy at this stage, as we know. You know, like, listen, what's been the big positive about this year's championship is that you probably have 11, 12 teams that are all coming together, you know, that can beat anyone on any given day. I think that's been one of the great things of the championship. So it's going to be a dinger of a game. Dublin at the weekend were a strange sort of game, Jacqui, after the hurling. You know, the highs of the hurling and maybe
was it a weird atmosphere kind of after it?
Yeah, it was a strange atmosphere, you know, because there was such a buzz and high. And after watching that second half and the hurling, it was you know. So
you only came in for the second half as well, Whelan.
You called me out there, Rory. It was the best half. Yeah. But it was, Jacqui. It was a strange atmosphere, and I thought maybe there was a little, like, Cork worked extremely hard. There might have been a little bit of passiveness to Dublin. They didn't press out. They didn't maybe bring the same energy levels they did against Galway, and in some other games, and they kind of let Cork hang in there. And you know, at one point, 15 minutes to go, I was kind of going, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. If Cork got, you know, a couple of 2-pointers or got a bit of a run at them. But you always felt that Dublin had enough to win the game, and Paddy Small up front was excellent. Costello was, you know, moving well. Obviously, they'd done it without Con. Bugler played well. Patrick Bourne played well. Howard was brilliant. So there was positives in the Dublin performance, but still, there's, you know, there's big improvement I think needed. And said it a few weeks ago, Jacqui, the class, from my view, was always half full rather than half empty, even after the Armagh match. But maybe Dublin's lack of depth and their ability for 2-point frees and little small margins like that could be crucial in the next couple of weeks. But listen, the Tyrone game will be a dinger. It will really be a dinger, and it's a very, very difficult one to call.
For yourselves, Davy, I guess even with that game that Ciarán mentions at the weekend, you know, I'm sure there's a bit of angst even watching Cork being in that position that maybe you felt he could have been in it as well. And you look at the draw against me, that it's such fine margins. You could have found yourselves in that position at the weekend. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It was no surprise to me, to be honest with you, what Cork done the weekend, and we would have fancied ourselves to do at least that as well. There's very, very little between the top 10 teams or whatever you want to say in the country at the minute, and this new game has really enhanced that, which is brilliant. So I fancied Cork to give it a right go the weekend. I thought they probably get a rub of the green a lot of the time too. I thought they were a little bit unfortunate with a few things that went against them, and I thought a couple of saves by Cluxon as well were top drawers. So they but I was very, very impressed with them overall. And but the thing with Dublin is probably a little bit like Galway, lads. They're not playing their best, but they're still there. You know, they're still there, and they're very dangerous because they're still there every week. And more familiar that young Dublin team gets used to Croke Park and gets used to playing together, and you know, more consistent football. You know, they'll be very dangerous. You know.
Rory, I know you were in there, you were watching them up close and personal, and I do think the longer they hang in there, the more people just cannot write that Dublin team off.
The better team won, to be fair, Jacqui. I think like there was a sense like so much really needed to go right for Cork. They needed a good start, they didn't get one. They needed to take all of their chances. Like they missed one or two that, you know, on another day, if they go your way, then you have a real chance of a shock. And they also needed, I suppose, a little bit more of a rub of the green from a refereeing perspective. But that's what happens when you're playing away from home against a team with a massive support. There's going to be pressure. And on that side of it, I was hoping that, you know, that he'd allow a little bit more physical stuff go. But Cork can have no complaints, and I think the Cork public can have no complaints with the way the team played. Like, they emptied themselves and they gave absolutely everything. They were, as Wheelo mentioned there, was a point in it with heading down the home stretch. You know, a break here, win a breaking ball there, get a breakaway score or something, and now all of a sudden you might have a real chance of, you know, putting a major scare. But just on one particular point, because I know we won't probably speak about Cork again, I do think it's extremely important that John Cleary stays on. I think, like, sometimes, and there'll be a lot of twits out there in the social media world, and we live in a world now where people seem to think that Gaelic football started about 5 minutes ago. Like, John Cleary first played minor football for Cork in 1980, Jacqui. He played on 3 under-21 teams in the early 80s that won a couple of All-Irelands. He then went on and represented Cork for nearly 10, 12 years at senior level, played in 5 All-Ireland finals, won 2. He then went on and managed Cork underage teams. He managed Cork LGFA teams. He's managed now the Cork senior football team. He has served Cork football for over 40 years. He has, and you have to bear in mind, John Cleary is not full-time. There are a couple of full-time managers in big Ulster counties, and everybody talks about how great Armagh are and how great Donegal are, where they don't have hurling. John Cleary is full-time. Yeah, he's full-time, putting bread on the table for his family and then doing this in a voluntary capacity. So I think a big issue from a Cork perspective is the chopping and changing that tends to happen. A manager goes, then a couple of players decide to drift away. There's a few things that they probably need to get right. It would be very important, in my view, to try and get Jack Cahalane back from hurling. Mm-hmm. He's a nephew, so I think he's got to do a bit of work there, get Conor Corbett fit. They do lack a bit of quality on that inside line. Brian Hurley's not getting any younger. But he's found a few players. I mean, when is the last time you saw well, I know George Spillane, but Ballygarvan, centre back. I mean, you know, Sean Brady, I didn't see him coming. I didn't see Sean McDonald and Sean Walsh having the impacts. He's found players as well. He's done a really, really good job with the raw materials that is at his disposal this year. It's about building on that and really trying to get after a promotion now. But it's absolutely essential he stays. And the soundings afterwards, I think, were good, but you just never know.
Yeah.
One of the things, in fairness to Rory, he wasn't too disappointed after the match on Saturday, because he was in flying form when I met him in his Cork jersey later on Saturday night anyway.
Was he? Good. Look, like, we know the better team won the game. I mean, I don't think anybody disputes that. And from a Dublin perspective, I think, look, you wouldn't necessarily call it a professional job, but like, I mean, Paderborn midfield, you know, what a weapon that is now from a kick-out perspective. They managed to win the game without, we'll say, their key and star player. He's obviously going to be very fresh now heading into this weekend. Gives Dublin a really good chance. Now, I think that game is 100% 50-50, and you couldn't call it.
Is that 50-50 for you? Go on, sorry, Ciarán, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Jacqui, on that Paderborn Coffee, you know, he's obviously, or Paderborn Coffee born, he's obviously, you know, really grown into the role. And, you know, you could see, you know, he's around a good few years and he wasn't really getting a start. And then, you know, you could see throughout all the games this year, he was just having more of an impact bit by bit. And he backed up his performance up in Uri by a very good performance at Croke Park. But next week, I don't know whether Tyrone or Brian Kennedy back, but Brian Kennedy is very similar. You know, he's a beast of a man as well. He's going to be well able to compete with him. If Tyrone have him back in the middle of the park, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic, because Dublin's kick-out strategy is predictable enough. It's kind of Howard out one side for that mid-range kick,
and Burn on the other,
and overload on the other side. So I think Brian Kennedy being back for Tyrone next weekend is going to be interesting if he makes it, because I think he was injured. He's been off injured. I think in the Donegal game, I don't think he hasn't surfaced since. You know.
Yeah,
I think that's just kind of what I was saying about them Dubs they're growing into it. Like O'Coffey Byrne's a prime example of that. He, you know, week by week getting better and better, getting stronger and stronger, more familiar, more comfortable in that jersey, you know. And let's be honest, he's stepping into big boots there, like, you know, the kind of way. So you know, every week he's looking more comfortable, he's looking closer to the real deal, and you know, it's a dangerous place for everyone to be honest.
Is Dublin Tyrone 50-50 for you, Davy?
Yeah, completely 50-50. Yeah. I couldn't call that at all. A lot will depend on Conor Callahan's fitness, obviously. Michael McKernan's fitness. They both have injuries there. Brian Kennedy's fitness. If Brian Kennedy's missing, just you'd have to fancy a Coffee Burn to do damage around the middle. If McKernan's not fit, it does take away a lot of punch out of that Tyrone half back line and their attacking threat. He's been excellent, exceptional for them all year long and for many years, but particularly in this new game, he's kind of got a new lease of life, and they've released him out of the half back line and kind of let him at it, and he's really, really doing a lot of damage. Obviously, Dublin took a big risk the weekend. We might be having a completely different conversation here if Cork managed to get over the line the weekend and Desi didn't push Con in. So fair play to Dublin. They took the risk and they got away with it. But obviously they'd imagine he'd be fully fit for this weekend now. It's a 2-week break. But I see it really, really as a 50-50 game. To be honest, it's a great draw. I think it's a great draw for both teams.
It is.
Both fancy it. I think that both teams will win going into it, and you'll really have a good week now preparation. Looking forward to that in your matchups, getting ready for that. And I think there'll be lots of guys there that'll know each other from Sigerson football. You look at the matchups, there could be like the Theo Clancy could be going on to maybe onto Dara or one of them boys, and they'll all know each other from Sigerson. They'll all know each other. So I just think there's a lot of familiarities in the team too.
Yeah, I think it's just the tightness of the turnaround, Ciarán, for all those injuries. Because like even Tomas was saying, similar story with Kerry even last night, with maybe Diarmuid O'Connor being gone. I think when you are trying to play that stick or twist game as a manager, when you're going into a do or die All-Ireland quarterfinal, at some point you're just going to have to say, launch them in. Let's just go, because I think if you're in one of those games, a Dublin Tyrone or a Kerry Armagh, which is genuinely 50-50, you actually need to put all your chips on the table and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges. I think we spoke about before, Jacqui, the week on week, physically, mentally, really tough, I think, on players. And sure, Davy will know a week turnaround is very, very tight for all aspects,
and maybe for some of these, by the way, it could even be a 6-day turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose the other factor is it's grand throwing them in, but they have to be right.
Yeah.
And from a player perspective, if you're going into Croke Park this weekend, if you're not fully right or on it, or you've something niggling, whether it's a shoulder injury or whatever it is, it can just have an impact on that performance. So it's challenging, even Kerry's perspective, the injuries they have, and they've no choice. This weekend is they've to go for broke. They've to come to town as probably the underdogs and with an anger. And really go for it, and like Jack O'Connor's no choice in that regard, because there's no point dwelling next Monday morning when you're licking your wounds. So yeah, the teams this weekend, there's no room for breathing anymore this weekend. It's hell for leather. Excuse the pun, considering what's going on at the moment. But yeah, they have
just on your point, Jacqui. I don't think any one of them 4 games you could really start resting lads, to be honest with you now. I don't think any of them are that slam dunks or home and hoes, really, to be honest with you now. So I would be very, very reluctant if I was managing any of them 8 teams to be, I'll leave this fella off till next week and kind of do what maybe Dublin done last weekend. I think that's all gone now. And the other point of it is, just to Ciarán's point, like the new game and the pace of it and the amount of high speed running in it, it's very, very hard to be hiding a knock and a niggle now. Very, very hard. Like back in the day with the 15 behind the ball, the slow laboured attacks, the slow build-ups, you could probably get away with, doing a bit of that. But that's gone. It's very, very difficult now to hide a niggle, which is why you see week on week so many more lads are missing out, because it's practically impossible now to let them out there, because you'll be badly exposed and it's not fair on anybody.
Yeah, no, you're right. And sure, you can't. Like, that's the reality of it. In that pace, I wouldn't like to be in the white heat of that, trying to carry a niggle, and you're maybe running an extra 2K in a game that you hadn't accounted for either. Are Galway the ones then that maybe are getting everybody back, Davy, at the right time? Because it does seem to me that bar Damien Comer, who we're obviously not seeing, you're looking at Peter Cook coming back in. They are able to launch a bench that seems to have massive energy, and maybe they're the ones who are actually getting people back at the right time.
Yeah, Galway definitely are starting the motor now. They were flying in the Connacht Championship as we found out, and then probably had a little blip. But I think just after that, they kind of just go off the boil a small bit. But week by week, to me, they look like they're really, really growing back into it and finding that bit of form and kind of falling over the line a bit, which is fine. You're still in the Championship. It doesn't really matter how you get over the line once you're brought in Monday morning. And they do really, really seem to be finding something now. And look, Galway tick every box. If they're moving, they tick every box. From they've got the platform in midfield between Pete Darcy and between Johnny Marr and everybody else. They have Kilkenny McDade, and then they have obviously got 3 guys up top, and even best of them all has been Matthew Thompson. You know, he's been unbelievable. He's been exceptional. Like Salt Hill, and even you see himself and Finnerty there. Really, the club kind of intuition there, really working for backdoor cuts yesterday. I was very impressed by them. So he's except what a young player. I'd say he's streets ahead in the betting for young player of the year. Anyway, you'd imagine he's been awesome. So and obviously the back line, if you look at like Johnny McGrath, they kind of have it every way. So Galway can have it every way. I think it seems to be the goalkeeping situation probably seems to be the one that's a little bit in flux, and that they're chopping and changing a small bit between Flaherty and Gleeson there. So, and in fairness to Park, he's been consistently not afraid to make the big decisions. In fairness, if you look at him, he's no problem making big calls. So you have to give him credit for that. But they definitely are coming into form, and like bringing the likes of Peter Cook, like even Tom O'Callaghan. In fairness, got a good goal yesterday off the bench. And so Galway are definitely coming into it. I would fear Galway. If I was everybody else in this competition, I'd really start to fear Galway, particularly when obviously Shane Walsh seems to be really growing into it. And I'm not even sure they just take him off for the crack at some stage. That kind of way. It seems to be every week we're talking about Shane Walsh and worrying about Shane Walsh's fitness, but I don't think we've anything to worry about. He'll be in Croke Park this weekend, I'd say.
Yeah, and just at the right time. That's the thing, Rory. I think we've always talked about this Galway team. Imagine if you could get all of them firing at the same time. Well, because of the new options that they have, like Thompson, I think Davy's right. He's a shoe-in at the moment for Young Footballer of the Year. Unbelievable season, 112, I think that is now. He's probably set up another 312, 315 maybe. I think just the aces that Porrick Joyce is now starting to show is very obvious that Galway, for all the talk that we thought maybe Down might catch them at the weekend, there was actually no jeopardy in that game. They were in control right the way through.
Yeah, and I think, look, the draw, if you were to probably ask him, and he won't admit this because he'll have to play the PC card, but I think it's probably the best draw from a Galway perspective. I mean, it's a Division 2 team. Let's be honest, and that's the way the rest of us are going to see it. Galway will be favourites, but they've been such a fun team to watch. I mean, if you look at their results, 226 yesterday, 222 against Armagh, 414 against Derry in one of the best games. Like, I mean, the Connacht final against Mayo. The Galway have, I think, it's like a one-team roller coaster here. They've only lost one match really by one single point to Dublin, isn't that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Hooter, remember on the Hooter, Tom DeHiff.
Yeah. So like, I think the way the game is now, and this is the fantastic thing about this current championship, is that you can't be definitive about anybody, and you really don't have a clue what's going to happen. And I think the lads were making a point there, and I think this is going to be really, really fascinating this weekend in terms of the pace of the game. Like we heard Jim McGuinness complain about the fact 8 games in 12 weeks, which is a massive load on amateur players. So you're now heading into a really sultry, and I think that played a key, by the way, and we'll get to that on the hurling side of things. I think the actual conditions and the heat played a massive factor from a Limerick perspective. But you're now moving into a time of the year where the weather's going to be extremely warm. All the games are in Croke Park. The pace of the game is going to be a lot quicker. You may have to cope with extra time. Extra time could become a factor. So now you're into 100, 102, 105 minutes of football on top of everything else. So, like, this is really going to test teams, I think. It's going to test panels. It's going to test your athleticism. It's going to test fitness and S&C, medical. Everything is going to be on the table this weekend. I think Galway have a little bit of an advantage in that I think they do have a deep panel. Not as deep maybe as Armagh's, and not as maybe as stacked as Armagh's might be. But I think the lads did mention again, I suppose the only real one sort of variable is they do seem to be doing a lot of chop and changing in goal, which is less than ideal. But then again, is it? When the kick out has become so rudimentary now, it's lamp it out by and large. Like, I thought Flaherty actually made a couple of really good saves yesterday. Like, has a goalkeeper actually reverted back to type in that, look, your job, bang the ball out and make sure you stop goals from going in? Is that the primary role of a goalkeeper now, back to maybe what it used to be? I don't know.
The only thing, Rory, I suppose, looking at it, Galway are blessed with the bodies they have around the middle to win.
They are.
Yeah.
The fact that they're struggling possibly in that position, they're struggling for variety, that the likes of Cook even coming off the bench yesterday, the impact he made. But you've Keane Darcy, you've Conroy, you've big bodies right across the middle. Keane Darcy's having a phenomenal year for them in terms of what he gives them feeling wise. But I just think if that momentum goes against you, and like it can be very simple little things, you're just off the breaking ball, you lose 3 or 4 in a row, you lose all that momentum, that it's still a risk. It's still a risk that he hasn't got. You don't have a kind of a plan B, to get them out of trouble if they're struggling or they lose that momentum. So I think what's saving them at the moment is that they are so good from number 8 upwards. They've such physicality across that middle. And Meath will match them in that area. Meath will relish that battle in the middle of the park. You know what I mean? They've been very, very good in that space.
And Meath have pace, There's a lot of pace in that Meath team.
Yeah, but I think, listen, from Galway's perspective, I know at halftime the Armagh match, I was kind of watching on the iPad. I was watching the Dublin match, and you were thinking, these guys could be gone here. But I think the second half of last week, and even grinding out yesterday against a good down team, lads, good. Really, they've progressed so much. But I just think the character that Galway have showed in the last 2 weekends is going to stand to them. I think that can build momentum and build a bit of belief and confidence in the camp, and I think that's put them back in a good place.
Just on Down, I think Down are a very, very underrated team. I think they've dropped to Division 3 now, obviously, but I'd say they're far from it, to be honest with you. And they've really adapted to these new rules, in fairness to them. And when we played them in early on in the league, they were very much zonally based, whereas now they've looked to me like they've moved out to a man-to-man approach, and they've kind of nearly half forgot defending, which probably is the way forward, really. To be honest with you, in this new game, it's very, very difficult to keep teams, as you're seeing by these scores that keep coming in every week. So, in fairness to Down, and for me as well, there's a young guy on their team, and nobody really speaks about him nationally, in Oran Murdoch. Like, he's probably in the conversation for one of the best players in Ireland. Like, and I've long thought this, but he doesn't probably get the national recognition he deserves. Maybe Down have gone earlier, they're playing in the lower tiers, or whatever it might be. But he is an exceptional top tier footballer, and I think he was immense. I think he was immense yesterday.
That fixture, actually, Davy, that fixture, yourselves and Down, wasn't that one of the first matches shown in the league very early on? And I think first it was shown, and I think it was actually shown by mistake, because I think it was someone mentioned that Kerry Donegal got pulled.
Yeah,
and it turned. I don't remember what the scoreline was, but it was unbelievable.
Brilliant.
And it almost kick-started the positivity around the rules in some way, that people were looking, look, this is a game played in wintry conditions. And I can't remember what the full-time score, you can probably tell us, Davy, but it was an amazing game of football.
Yeah, we went in 7 down and we were going by 7, so that'll tell you now. That'll tell you. It was the last Sunday in January, and you know exactly what the hype is like, straight down the wind.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was brilliant stuff. But again, just to finish up on Down, like, I just think they have a lot of their pace, their athleticism. Pat Haven for 2-pointers. Danny McGill is turning into a real top end footballer. Oran Murdoch there, Daniel Guinness. They've loads of stuff. So in fairness to that Down team, to give them their credit, they give Galway stocks yesterday. And in fairness to them, and were full credit for their performance. And I do think they're going to continue to improve under Conor Laverty. And I think they're a threat to all. I think they should come straight back out of Division 3 and really, really push back into the All-Ireland series, because they've adapted. They play with this abandon. If you look, it looks to me now, like after 1 year in this new game, the cautious approach is nearly finished, lads. It's nearly gone. It looks to me like the Monaghans, the Downs, the teams that are really just opening up, going for it, and forget what we concede, lads. Let's just kind of, like New Orleans Saints used to do it in the NFL, is we're just going to outscore you. So you can go whatever, do what you want. We're going to outscore you, and that seems to be a lot of the teams that are doing well at the minute seem to be adapting that approach.
Can I ask you about Meath on that? Because I think maybe they're the same, Davy, that they've found an athleticism in a running game that has allowed them to do that to the teams, like they've already beaten Dublin and Kerry playing their way. You know what I mean? That front foot ball kind of thing. So is that something that teams like that, like your own Roscommon, that you can adapt and just be like, right, we're going to do that? And actually it has been effective.
Yeah, and fairness to me, they've been brilliant and probably haven't got the full credit, Jacqui, they deserve. Really, if you look at their performance and their results over this year, they've been very, very good. In fairness to them, I obviously would be disappointed they fell short in the Leinster final, but other than that, they've been excellent. They've obviously taken scabs of Kerry and Dublin along the way. So, they have, for me, Meath are real footballers. They're kind of ballers, and like you look at Rory Kinsella there, I know him very well from sectional football. Connor Duke, they're real ballers. I think they're real, just very, very skillful, talented lads. And then Ciarán Caulfield, they have some top end pace. The one place I see them struggling with Galway is Meath have huge physicality, right? They're very, very physical side. Brian Menton has been brilliant for them all year around the middle. Jack Flynn is now gone, so he'd be a huge loss around the middle physically. But I just think Galway would be able to match their physicality, no problem, because Galway probably can match anybody physically. And then I'm just not sure if they have the top end pace. So they have real athleticism, but I'd be concerned just about their top end pace that the Sean Kellys will have, the Dylan McHughes will have, really to go at them time and time again. And that would be the only thing. But I think that's a really, really positive, like something really positive happening in Meath at the minute. They're on a crest wave, and they're a real danger to that Galway team. You know, a real danger to that Galway team is, as you see what Down done to them, they opened them up time and time again, and that is a possibility. But I just think, whereas Down will go at you time and time again, down the middle, hard running first phase. This Meath team won't do that. They haven't got the same players. They've got more footballers who try think you and try outkick you with 2 pointers and different things like that. So I think they'll run into a better version of themselves, a version of themselves that's further down the road in Galway. That's what I think will happen there. But they will get there. They're really, really coming side. But sure, they've had all the underage success. I don't think this is shocking anyone. Meath are coming.
And you know what? One other small thing on them, Jacqui, they will have a massive support. I'd hazard a guess that game will be on Saturday. No, it's not. It's very hard. Look, Kerry Armagh will be on Sunday, and Dublin will definitely be on Saturday. Then RTÉ, I think, at third pick then. So it's a good chance that Galway Meath will be on the Sunday as well. Irregardless, Meath will be bringing buses and buses and buses. And support does matter, because no different to the Kerry Armagh situation, Armagh are going to bring down the whole county. And we saw last year in the semi-final, it did make a difference. You know, when they got a run, that noise that came from the stands, nobody from Kerry there, as usual, you know, and that makes a big difference. It can give a team a bit of a push. Obviously, they can't kick the ball over the bar for you, but it definitely does make a difference. I don't know. Look, maybe I'm overthinking that. The lads have obviously been playing and managing in that kind of an environment. Is it significant?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Rory. Like I've said from numerous times, Croke Park is a place that can either make you 2 inches taller or 2 inches smaller. Do you know what I mean? Depending on momentum of game, depending on the crowd and all sorts of stuff. So it's a massive factor, and I think you could certainly see it made a big difference to Dublin hurlers on Saturday. You know, the crowd, the energy from the crowd really drove them on, I think. So yeah, absolutely, it's a big factor at this time of year. Of course it is, and you're getting into, you know, forget even, you know, you get to quarterfinal stage, and Croke Park is a different environment. You know, it's a very, very different environment for players to come into. You know, some like Dublin have that big advantage. Kerry, Armagh, you know, Galway, probably a lot of them have been there a lot over the last 2 years. You know, Meath, Monaghan, you know, maybe not so much. You know what I mean? Those little things can be crucial, I think, come the weekend. You know.
It's interesting, because even I was listening to Brian Flanagan yesterday, Whelan, and he was talking about Kildare's record in Croker, and you'd nearly forget. I think that was like their 4th win in 24 games there. So when it's going bad, there is kind of no place to hide there. Yeah. Big time.
And we certainly, I tell you, one thing we won't be seeing in Croke Park is 9 2-pointers.
Yeah.
Was it 9 2-pointers in Down Galway? I think I counted 9. It could have been 8.
That's like where you kind of said that it does play differently in terms of the wind, and you're not going to have, you know, it's not going to be as easy for team when you get that nice little wind behind you, like that was there yesterday in Rory. You don't get that in Croke Park, and I think even the influence of the 2-point free to, like, the likes of Rory Beggan, his influence. You know, if Donegal, now they were brilliant the first day, they didn't give him any opportunities in around outside that arc, but his kicking technique since he came back from the US is just absolutely off the scale then. So I think even back in Croke Park, the 2-point frees and teams that have long range kickers will be critical, and a team that doesn't would, you know, and that's with, like, even the likes of Dublin, you know, and Cormac Costa's kind of taking the 45s. Cluxon's range is kind of, he got one at the weekend, you know what I mean? But some of the teams just have really, really good kickers. Rian O'Neill, Sean O'Shea,
Brogan,
you know, Shane Walsh, and yeah, you know, and Beggan, you know, they're 4 lads that will relish those, and they're small margins in the next couple of weeks.
And the 2-pointers are key. I mean, that Bugler 2-pointer just before half time on Saturday, I thought was a massive score. Like, Cork were 4 points up, but buzzer goes. and Bugler kicks a beauty from play. And all of a sudden, like, a 4-point lead goes to 2, and look, yeah, you know, it's very much back in the melting pot again, and Cork kind of lost a lot of the momentum that they had built up over that first opening half. So your ability to kind of kick 1 or 2, Cork got no 2-pointers in the entire match. So I think your ability, even just to clip off 1 or 2, will be significant, won't it?
Interesting, Davy. Did you put a lot of talk in your dressing room around outside that arc and that 2-point free, and was it something you would have discussed?
Yeah. So give you 2 examples of we played Monaghan in the third round of the league in the Hyde, and we restricted Rory to no effort at all, 2-pointers. We beat them by 5 or 6 points. And we met them in the league final again, and we had a similar plan, was to restrict Rory begging, and I think he got 4 of them. So now a couple of them were balls brought up, and kick out marks which is gone, and different things like that, which were ridiculous really. But again, as you said, his striking is he's a cheat code. Like, he is a complete cheat code. So Monaghan have the number 1 player in this new game, in my opinion, in that the biggest threat to everybody. He could kick 10 points in the game and kick the ball out 30 times, like, no problem. So wow. He's phenomenal, in my opinion, and particularly with this 50-meter rule and any of this type of stuff. You're bringing any ball up, that fella kicked the ball from, I don't know, 60 yards over the bar, and he's exceptional. So huge time goes into it. It's hard. The refs, in fairness to refs, they don't give away soft frees on the top of the arc. In fairness, obviously, I would imagine they're discussing it themselves. They don't tend to give you a soft free at the arc because most teams are playing for them, let's be honest, but they don't tend to give you them. So which is fair enough. But the ones that are killing teams are the 50-meter ones. You might think a free up the field there's no jeopardy to it. But if you stand in the way and bring it up 50 meters, and then the likes of a Megan or a Morgan kick the ball over the bar from 55, 60 meters, it's real hammer blow. Like, it's massive. So there's huge work going into it. And you'll see teams preparing more and more to push out man-to-man, to stop it, to really put pressure on the shooters out there. And obviously you're trying to cut angles, you're trying to get defenders off balance, you're trying to create space. You'll see Cork done it very effectively, Down done it very effectively, flooding in the full forward line to leave the arc wide open, try to get the shooters on the ball. So there's huge work going into all sides of it, trying to exploit this 2-pointer. And I think actually, as it goes on, we're getting a better balance between goals and twos. I think for a while there we were all saying kind of, we're not scoring enough goals now. We need to go back to a 4-point goal. I think if you look at it now, we're scoring plenty of goals. I think
is that because teams have to push out on the 2-point option?
Yeah. If you look at the takedown, for example, like, they wouldn't concede very many goals until about 6 weeks ago, when they said, you know what, we're pushing out man to man now, and we'll concede as many goals as we need to, but we'll score as many goals as we need. That looks like so look at the amount of goal chances, and look at, probably Galway and Down. How many goal chances did they miss between the two?
Yeah.
They missed 6, 7, 8 goal chances. But I think we're not programmed like this. We wouldn't have 6 goal chances in a championship campaign last year, whereas now you have 6 in 20 minutes. So honestly, I think there's a bit of the players are kind of, they don't know how this is opening up in front of them. They're delighted with themselves. They're probably panicking, rushing the shots, and a bit of better decision making, whatever might go. But I think that'll take time. I think it might be next year by the time you really see us get used to this and the players really finishing all of them. But it's going to be very hard. You're never going to finish all these opportunities. You're presented now with so many opportunities because of the space that's available to you that we're going to get more and more, which was the whole point of the addition of the rules.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing score lines though of like 4:45 and this kind of thing, like,
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Conversion rates are hard going, and as the from this weekend on, you're coming up against the best of the best. That kind of, so the defenders are brilliant man-to-man defenders. You're really coming up. Mismatches are less and less, and if you're going to be kicking, you couldn't see. I think you got half that, Jacqui. I'd say this weekend now you probably half that.
Yeah, well, definitely Monaghan and Donegal. Anyway, I would have thought you might go on, Whelan. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is this weekend is probably the only 2 teams left that still play a zonal type defence, probably Donegal and Armagh.
Yeah.
And still have stuck to their core principles of kind of that zonal and shifting the defence across and stuff like that. And at times they might mix it up. Donegal might go man to man, but Armagh are very set in their structure. And it's going to be interesting because I still look back at that Dublin game, and I know Dublin kicked 70 and 18 wides, but the chances they created, they were easy chances, and Armagh gave Dublin a lot of scoring chances. And if Armagh give Kerry the same level of chances this weekend, Kerry could hurt them. And I just wonder, like this, as Davy said, more teams are pushing out now. They realise you have to press out the field. They're reaping rewards from it.
But if you push out, like if you're Armagh and you push further out, are you not just creating space for the one and only inside then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rory, I'm not saying they're going to change anything.
Okay.
They're very wedded to their system. They're very wedded to their system. I don't think they'll change. And they're quite good at it. They're very, very good at it. That's why they're favourites for the All-Ireland. It's been very effective for them. But I just thought that game against Dublin, the amount of easy scoring chances they gave Dublin, Kerry, I know you have to. There's a man inside who's going to do damage, and they'll have to deal with that. I get that, but that's why I think while they seem to be the strong favourites, it's a really dangerous game for them now this weekend.
But Donegal do the same thing, Whelan, as well. They give people loads of shot options.
Yeah, they do. But that's what they're following the same defensive principle. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see how it evolves over the next couple of weeks, because teams have adapted and changed in terms of their game plans throughout the year. Others have been very wedded to their systems, and ultimately at the end of the year, one of the systems is going to win out.
Yeah. Well, Davy, give me the mind of choosing between those two systems then. If you go mano a mano and you like go old school or whatever inside there, it could be absolute carnage if you were trying to mark an inside forward line like what Galway have or Kerry. But versus that zonal system that Jim McGuinness is employing, which has been very effective. So give me the thoughts of a coach of trying to decide what works.
Yeah, you really have to obviously analyse your opposition and see who you're coming up against, and to make sure it's the right one is appropriate. But the reason you're pushing out obviously is to put pressure on the 2-point shooters and to clear out the top of the arc. That's the reason to make sure they're not getting handy shots away. And if you've got Galway or particularly Galway, probably the best at. I think Meath are very, very good at it too now. In fairness, a lot of 2-point shooters. You can't leave them boys uncontested in 5 meters of space out there coming around the right foot or left foot, because it's a 2-point. As you've seen yesterday from Thompson and Walsh and everybody yesterday, they're just clipping over the bar. So you have to push out on that, which obviously leaves space in behind you inside the arc. And the trade-off here, though, Jacqui, is it's only a 1-point concession. Hope if you can collapse your defense, you're pushing out man to man. You're nearly defending a man and a half, Jacqui. Each, to be honest with you, you're pushing out at him. I have responsibility for X, but I'm also keeping an eye on Y that if the ball does get popped inside, which you'll see a lot of the time, they'll pop the ball into the arc. Then for a runner coming out from deep, it's now everybody's job is to collapse in and cover the space. Don't concede a goal. They clip a 1-pointer. Fair enough. We possession back and we go again, because ultimately your twos add up very much quicker than the ones will add up. That kind of. So that's ultimately the way they'll be thinking. If they push out, put on the 2-point shooters. If they then take you on, and as well, you can probably commit to a lot of these guys on their stronger foot. Whether Paul Conroy's really going to go after his right foot, whereas someone else will go after their left foot. You can really go after that. If they step inside you, they're nearly gone inside the 1-point arc now. You're nearly happy enough again, and then we go again and recycle it again. And that's kind of the thought process of a lot of the coaching on that one. But if you look at the way Armagh and Kerry are doing it zonally, and very little has changed for Armagh at all. Like, we would have got 33 shots off in the quarterfinal last year against Armagh. It was our conversion that let us down on the day. We'd be very disappointed with ourselves. And that was on the day. So I know Kerry looked at our game very closely going into the semi-final, and they would have got a similar amount of shots up. Armagh beat both of us. So you still see like that is there, but they tend to give you the low percentage shots. They'll give you the 2 wings. They'll give you the sidelines. They'll give you the 2 wings that it might look at the end. We got 30, 32, 34 shots off against Armagh. Where actually did you get them shots off away from is another factor, because they tend to block. And it really looks to me like Donegal are really playing a low block soccer coaching game plan, and they're kind of giving you the shots from wide, left and right, and probably back in that you won't execute enough of them, Jack. Simple as that. And a big part of their plan, and you heard Jim McGuinness talk about it yesterday, is they need to kill the ball, because for them to be set up appropriately and to be able to shift, because they're the one team in Ireland that their drift defence is exceptional, because the level of enthusiasm to do it. They sprint. They literally never pass a man out. They sprint and they move and they communicate. It's phenomenal to watch them do it, and their level of enthusiasm and energy to do it. But you don't often get it. It's very, very difficult. But why do they do it? And you got a few secrets off Guinness yesterday. They always kill the ball. They must kill the ball. They can't turn over the ball because they don't want to be going 120 meters each way at high speed, which means you can't defend, which means you're giving away soft frees, which means you're not clogging up the space as much. So if you listen to all them, you're probably getting the little bits of the nuggets of information out of them. So it's hugely important that for Donegal's game plan, their offense is massively important. If the ball goes dead, they get their breather, they can reset into their structured zonal defense, and now they're very much energized to do it. Whereas when you're flagging, you'll find that is much, much tougher to do.
Yeah, the key word though is energy, Whelan, because with 8 games in 12 weeks versus Monaghan sitting there with the week off, which you would imagine is quite valuable, because when you're playing a system like that, against a team who can kick those 2-pointers like Monaghan, who can take those opportunities. They've got shooters on the field. That's the risk for Donegal, that if the energy levels aren't there to play that highly attritional game against a team who, there's only 2 points between them in that Ulster quarter-final. It was tight.
Yeah, and I think Monaghan will relish this one because they probably felt they were really in that game, and probably in that first quarter of that game, they took on their shot options they took on weren't probably the most sensible ones. They were playing into a win. They needed to work it in a bit, and they just started that game pretty poorly, but finished it strongly. Yeah, like as Davy said, Donegal want to play a game of control, and Monaghan want to play probably a much faster paced game with a lot more energy. And it's really whether they can create those turnovers and bring Donegal to a place where they're really uncomfortable. Because if they manage, and like Donegal have been, while they've been brilliant in lots of games, there's been a few games where they just haven't been at the tempo, and teams have kind of exposed that a bit. So I think Monaghan will relish this one. I think Monaghan are a dangerous opponent for Donegal this weekend. And if Donegal's shooting is off, or they can create enough turnovers to hit them on the counter. Now, listen, Monaghan will probably, Davy touched on it, they go for it, so they'll leave themselves potentially open at the back. And Donegal's counter-attacking game is excellent, as we know. And then the only thing is they probably don't kick it. Will they kick it more to get into Croke Park? Well, we saw them kick it a bit in the Ulster final. The use of Michael Murphy, will Donegal mix it up a bit? I think they have that in their locker to change their offensive game plan if needed, and we might see a bit of that this weekend as well.
They'd probably be mad, Whelan, not to do it, considering the 8 games in the 3 weeks, right? This is a shift. I'm not sure if Jim McGuinness has been through this backdoor route before. Like, it's extremely tricky to come through the 3 weeks in a row, the last 12 into the quarterfinal. And look at last year, only Galway were the only team to beat Dublin, were the only team to come through it. The year before, I don't think anyone did it. So it's very, very tricky to come through this last 12 round into the quarterfinal and win when the other teams have been feed up in a hotel last weekend. It's very, very tricky this is. So Donegal are going to probably have to adapt. They're going to have to kick the ball. Surely the legs, coming into this game, coming up against a fresh Monaghan team, they're probably going to have to kick the ball. And they probably come up short over the years in Croke Park due to maybe not mixing it up, having enough variation in their attack, So I would say combination of their experiences in the past, and second of all, a couple of weeks in the bounce, they probably need to shift that ball on a bit more, yeah.
He was cute enough as well, though, Jacqui, yesterday. Like, once the game got busted about midway through the second half, he was pulling them all off.
Yeah. Why not, though?
Yeah, well, that would, again, smart management. There's no point in, I think he had Michael Murphy, Thompson, Conor O'Donnell, and Owen Bawn whipped off within, as soon as that goal went in midway through the second half, he just took them all off immediately. So he obviously had one eye to this weekend coming. And yeah, I think and the thing from Monaghan's perspective, Monaghan do kick the ball, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Monaghan are good side. Monaghan are a good side, lads. Monaghan are a good side. This isn't far off a 50-50 game at all now. Monaghan are a right good side. I think Monaghan are a threat to a lot of teams, to be honest with you. Again, it just really suits them. They go for it. They play with abandon. They have physicality around the middle. It's probably the one area they could probably do with. They probably love Darren Hughes to be 5 or 6 years younger, maybe, and even Carl O'Connell to be the same. They're probably, the 2 lads to be crying out for, even Ciarán Hughes, them couple of boys. But it's just the only area I could see where Donegal got hurt was maybe with Langan and Hugh McFadden and different boys like that, are probably that little bit ahead of the Monaghan midfield, the younger midfield at the minute. But if they got Gary Mohan back, and that Monaghan team is a threat. They've pace. They look like they're playing with great energy. They look like they're really happy under Bannigan, and they're definitely a threat. They have a bench. McCarron seems to be happy coming off the bench each week. He's consistently contributing well off the bench. And even the young Davy Garland there last week contributed well. So I just think they're a right good side. And we love from this over here. It's very difficult to beat the same team twice in championship. It's very, very difficult. Mentally, short turnaround, how much work do you get done? We've done this before, we'll be all right again. And all of a sudden you're not all right. That kind of is. So it's a tricky week for Donegal, very tricky.
Yeah, it is for sure.
It's the prime draw that Monaghan probably, it's going to get their juices flowing this morning. They'll feel that they had an opportunity to take them in the Ulster Championship, and I agree with David. They've really good players. Even the likes of McCarville in the middle of the park played very well last day. Desi Ward loves to come forward. McCarthy, they've options coming from deep as well as their forward line.
And we spoke about the goalie.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely got, well, as you described him, Davy, maybe the key to it all. So it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. We will look at that game again on Thursday. Obviously, I heard Fergal McGill saying this morning those games are going to be confirmed this afternoon. There'll be 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. So we'll be back on Thursday to look ahead to these 2 football quarterfinals. But Davy, Ciarán, thanks a million for being with us.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Okay, Shane is with us to chat hurling now. And oh my God, Shane, I have to say, you know, myself and Rory, as I think as much as we would have thought we might get a Cork Tipperary All-Ireland semi-final, with people thinking that Tipperary might go and do the business, I don't think anybody saw Dublin beating Limerick. And I will say it here on the pod, we got it wrong. I think every other outlet in the country got it wrong. I certainly didn't hear anybody tipping Dublin. I'm listening to Dublin players saying everybody wrote them off. I don't know how we all got this so wrong, because Mystic Meg didn't even see this one coming.
I don't think anyone outside Dublin seen this one coming, Jacqui, to be honest. No. And the belief inside in the camp would have been that, you know, we're good enough to beat Dublin, like, you know, or we're good enough to beat Limerick. This what I think as well, just from talking to people about it. I was in the Gaelic ground Saturday evening as well, and there was a good few actually Limerick people they went to the Tip Galway match because they were probably waiting for the semi-final, right? So it's funny. But like I was chatting to them, I said like some people are saying, oh, I know how you're going to playing Dublin in Croke Park, you know, you're just kind of running it as a trial run for an All-Ireland semi-final. And I was thinking to myself, I think every single county in Munster would have done the exact same thing as Limerick did, because like that's where the business end of the championship is, like up in Croke Park. Yeah. I think if you have a chance to go to Croke Park, like if you take our panel now at the moment, right, even Tip, and I would say just going through it, who we had there the other day, even from the starting team, there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There would be 6, maybe 7 of our starting team from the other day that have never played hurling for Tip in Croke Park.
In Croker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have an opportunity to go to Croke Park and play Dublin, like I think it was a no-brainer for Limerick to do that. So I don't think it was kind of a cockiness thing to say that we're going to win and we're going to be in the semi-final anyway. I don't think that was it. I think it's an opportunity to play in Croke Park, an opportunity to get used to the big arena, as it's called. The other thing is, like, I was going down through like big shocks in hurling down through the years. I suppose from a Tip point of view, we always think in 1989, maybe when Antrim bet Offaly to play Tip. But then I was just looking back on that, and Antrim were a coming team. Like they had been a really good group in like 87, 88, 89. So that might have been the huge shock that it was, because Offaly, if you look at that Offaly group, they were kind of in a rebuild as well after winning the All-Ireland in the mid-80s. So if you go on, then maybe Clare beating Cork in the early 90s, but look what Clare did. So where this is in terms of massive upsets or big shocks, I think it's bigger because Limerick are just so good and they have so many of their best players, Jacqui, right, still on the field. And Dublin gave us no indication whatsoever in the championship this year that this performance is coming.
But what if they are that team that's coming, Shane? What if they do win the All-Ireland?
Dublin?
Yeah.
Wow.
Seriously.
I know you're being serious, but like, I don't know. Like I did, like, who could honestly say outside of the Dublin camp that they seen this coming? Nobody. Like, I'd say first cousins of Dublin hurlers who live in different counties mightn't have even seen this coming. But obviously internally, they believed it. And to do what they did, it's been well documented. Like, as soon as Chris Crummy goes off, I'm telling you now, there's an amount of televisions getting turned off around the country, and something else is going on for a while, because they thought, sure, look, down to 14 against Limerick, forget it, it's over. And that's why I think it's just such a massive upset, because Dublin gave us no indication throughout the year that this performance was coming from what they did in the Leinster Championship. You know, God getting over the line against Wexford, you know, Offaly, getting beatings off Kilkenny, off Galway. So like what you're saying there is, like, do I think Dublin are going to the All-Ireland hurling final? I don't know. And I think what Dublin have done now is, we all respect Dublin for the hurling team they are. We do, like, but no more so than what people did when they were going up playing Antrim and Corrigan Park, and maybe they weren't sure about it. But now teams are going to play Antrim and Corrigan Park saying, we know we have to be so ready for this. We have to be so up for it. They're going to be a serious group up here. I'm saying Dublin are much better than Antrim now. But what I'm saying is now Cork are saying, as this Dublin team are serious. Like physically they can mix it. They have the hurlers to do it. Maybe Donald Burke might make a comeback as well. Like I couldn't see it, Jacqui. I that's why for me this is maybe the biggest upset in hurling in the last 50 years.
I genuinely think, Rory, it's the greatest upset in my living memory of watching hurling. To me, it's the biggest I've ever seen.
Yeah, like Christy O'Connor, I think, mentioned that it's the biggest upset in 50 years. And Christy's a very keen observer and a very intelligent guy and knows the game inside out. And if Christy says it, I think you would be a foolish person to disagree. It was like I was in there. I mean, Jacqui, it was just extraordinary. It was extraordinary. It was an extraordinary day. I mean, do you remember when Nirvana played Sir Henry's? You might remember Sir Henry's in our younger days, Jacqui, right? And there was a famous story about Nirvana played Sir Henry's nightclub in Cork, and Sir Henry's only holds about 250 people. But apparently there was about 5 million people at it, because anybody who ever spoke, oh, I was there. Well, I'm just glad to say that I was in the stadium with a bunch of young boys, all boys. We'd played a hurling match that morning ourselves against Luke and Sars, a fantastic game of hurling ourselves. And we brought a big gang of them in, and it was exhilarating. It was electrifying. It was, I couldn't even begin to describe the sense and the feeling, and for those young kids to witness a Dublin team play with the kind of panache, flair, skill, organisation, the level of coaching, the spirit and the heart to go down to 14 players and still turn Limerick over. It's extraordinary. And I texted Shane last night. I said, it's like hurling turned around and said to football, we'll see your new rules and we'll raise you the greatest upset in the history of the sport. It was just incredible. It's almost beyond words to describe it. And all I could say was thank the Lord above, I was there to witness it.
Yeah. And actually, look, my own son is 11 and he was in there as well. And he's hurling mad. And it's actually the knock-on effect of what that means for children around Dublin.
Jacqui, it's huge. Yeah. It's huge for the game. It is huge for hurling in Dublin. It's an injection of confidence and belief and promotion and profile. Look, we can compete. We can compete with the very, very best.
But that's what they're thinking, though.
It was fantastic.
Look, the reality is, and Shane, you know this as much as anyone being a school principal, the kids come into school when the World Cup is on, they want to play football. When Wimbledon's on, they want to play tennis. That's what happens. But for the young kids around Dublin, they have been growing up, particularly for, let's say, that age group of Rory's kids, my kids, you know, your kids of that age. They've been watching the Dublin footballers winning All-Irelands. That's in their lifetime of seeing the Sam Maguire coming into their classrooms. So it's very real to them. They haven't had that with hurling. In our club in Kilmacud, it's obviously very, very hurling focused as well. There'd be a lot of young kids out there who would see hurling as their first thing, but never in their wildest dreams did they feel that Dublin were competing for All-Ireland titles. I have an 11-year-old son who spends his day at the hurling wall, and he came in yesterday and he said, Mom, I think we can win the All-Ireland now. And it's the very first time I've ever heard those words uttered. Now, people might laugh and say, God, that's very glib now. They win one game. They think they're going to win the All-Ireland. But the reason why I say to you that maybe they are a coming team is maybe those kids now have a reason to believe that they can compete on the day. And maybe they don't win an All-Ireland this year, but it is going to make a whole crop of children believe that they can. And if they do turn out to Croke Park in those kind of numbers to come and watch this team delivering those kind of performances, then maybe in the next 10 years they might win one. And that's a big turnaround for Dublin GAA and what it might mean.
It's unreal. It's 10 years of development, lads, in one match. That's what it is like. It's you could give the next 10 years going around to schools and going around to clubs in Dublin and asking people to get into hurling and everything. And what you had there on Saturday was that rolled into one. Imagine if Ireland went to a World Cup and knocked Brazil out at the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Everybody in the country wants to play soccer then or play football, or that's what it is like. You know, if Ireland go to the Rugby World Cup and knock out New Zealand at quarterfinal, that's the equivalent of it for other sports, maybe, for trying maybe to get people to understand it. But look, I get, Jacqui, where the belief is coming from. I mean, what more can you do than beat the greatest team of the last decade? Like, definitely, anyway. Maybe they're up there of all time, you know, with the Kilkennys and the Corks of the 70s and all these kind of teams. Like, but Like, it's unreal. Like, I really admire John Kiley after the match.
Yeah, me
I just
too.
thought he said, you have to stop talking about Limerick. This is Dublin won this match. I thought it was a very humble
Touch of
thing for the
class.
man to say. I thought it was a very kind of matter-of-fact thing for him to say, and have the wherewithal to say it straight away after the match. Just admire the way he speaks. Obviously he's used to dealing, talking in public all the time in the nature of his job and what he's doing even now. But I just thought it was a good thing to say that this is about Dublin, not about Limerick. And it was about the fight that Dublin brought. It was like the Sean Brennan save. Like, geez, is it the best save he's ever made in his life? Probably, in the context of the thing, against who took the shot and everything. Will Aaron Gillan think, maybe should I have rolled it in? Easy talk, ifs and buts. What a save to do that. But even like the displays of like the full back line, like, I just thought they were absolutely immense. Like, I just thought the amount of ball they brought out, like guys who were coming in like in their mid-30s on the back of playing really good club championships with Nafina and this, like, and just the performance that they gave, and just even the way they set up, like tactically, as you said, Rory, like they're obviously a very astute management team. Neil
Very
Khan is a
clever.
very astute guy with the coaches he has around him to say, if you just came in and you didn't know Chris Crummy was sent off, you'd say, geez, I wonder, are Dublin have the extra fella here, or is it
Shane,
15 and 15, you know?
Shane, I'm glad you brought that up, because at one stage during the middle of the second half, sorry to cut across you, I said, have they got, has there been a man sent off? And I actually counted the players on the field. I could not, it was, but they were very, very smart in how they made the pitch. I thought they made the pitch, 'cause it's only when you're there, you see it. They made the pitch really big, right? And they played a lot of short balls when it was on, which I wasn't expecting them to do. I thought they would be a little bit more route one, but they're very athletic. They have a lot of pace in their team. So if the short one was on, they kept moving a player into space, and they kept pulling Limerick out of space, and they kept that pitch so big and wide that, okay, short one's on, grand. If it's not, okay, let's be direct. So like there was absolute clarity around the game plan, and for it to not really change when their spiritual leader, arguably their best player and one of the best players Dublin have ever produced, and Chris Crummy, is sent off, for them to stick to their guns and then get their due rewards. And the goals were massive, but as well as that, the saves, but even like the closing stages of the game, Paddy Doyle running in, diving blocks, Paddy Smith running out, blocking, Hedgehoe himself, basically, when the ball breaks at the very end, picking it up, clearing it out the field, the performances of the two Hayeses, Ronan and Brian. I mean, it was just...
Yeah, I tell you what I actually admired more than the goals, Rory, right? And this might sound weird, was how they reacted to the sending off.
Yeah.
That, and how they stayed in that game to half time, because that's a kind of a make or break quarter there, like, isn't it, for them? And to say that this, like, that they go in up at half time, it's some mark of where they're at as a group. Maybe, like, it obviously, like, they're obviously a very close group, like, because if something like that happens to you as a sports team, you have to just look around, and there had to be some form of a meeting or some chat during the year to say, come here, if something happens now, I'm going to be there for you, and I know you'll be there for me. And that's what the best teams have for me. Like, it's that when the proverbial stuff does hit the fan, and then you just look around, but you don't have to say anything to each other. It goes, hey, we're ready for this now. I'm going to do it for you. You're going to do it for me. That's what I admired. That's what I admired the most about them, was how they reacted to Chris Crummy getting sent off. How tactically they just changed it straight away. Obviously, they drop a guy out to half forward line. They're dropping back. They keep their bit of space inside in their 2v2 kind of thing. And, obviously Limerick have the +1 and they're so good at playing it. But it's the way they utilize the ball to that delivery zone that we talk about, that they could counteract Limerick's +1, we'll say, and still get a quality ball inside. And that's, and even look at their goals, like, the goals were, it was a route one ball, but they were taking out the sweeper, they were taking out the +1 out of it with those route one balls for the goals from where I was watching anyway, on telly, like, we'll say. But just the reaction of them between Chris Crummy getting sent off and going to half time, I just thought it was a serious sign of a group that they're just all in. But again, no panic. That doesn't just come from a game. They were prepared for something like this happening. And look, quickly, lads, I can only kind of compare it, maybe, right? And this is a completely different game now. to the All-Ireland minor final last year, and people might find it crazy, but the only reason I know is because, as I said before, my brother was involved with the Tip minors, but they would play matches where one lad was sent off or two lads were sent off. They'd go 14-15, they'd go 13-15. I'm sure Dublin have gone where they've a scenario where they've gone -1, -2 players, and let's see how we set up and let's see how we do, because that doesn't just happen naturally in an All-Ireland quarter final, like against Limerick as well. Like,
I was trying to remember the last time that 14 beat 15, and I think was it when poor old John McGrath was sent off in that 2019 semi-final against Wexford,
yeah,
and Tip overturned them in an unbelievable game.
And I remember when John got sent off and Wexford got a goal more or less straight away, and we just thought, this is it, it's done. And again, that would have been practiced, like that would have been gone through in training, down a player. No panic, because if you do panic, Rory or Jacqui, as you both know, like if you do panic in those scenarios and you just start lumping ball in, it's very, very quickly that the thing just turns against you. So I just thought tactically, gee, kudos to everybody involved in the way they set up. Like,
and I would love Jacqui, by the way, just on that, just before we move off to sending off, I'd love to see him get. I know, look, I understand the letter of the law, and we all. Yeah. Right, the letter of the law. But there is a difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and it's a cliche. He's not a dirty player. He's not a dirty player, right? It was a mistimed. It probably was a red card. Let's be honest, right? And they have to be very strict around head-high contact. It happened about 20 yards away from me, and I actually didn't even see it in real time. And of course, you're looking up to the screen for the replay, and they don't play contentious stuff in on the big screens inside the ground, which is again another day's story in terms of whether or not that should be happening, because it creates a bit of confusion for people. But like, in my view, he served the punishment. He's missed the game. He missed pretty much the entirety of the game. Do you have to double down on the punishment and deprive him of the chance of playing in an All-Ireland semi-final now as well?
I presume they're going to appeal it. Are they?
They will.
Well, I hope they do.
But they never rescind red cards for head contact. I think if he gets off, it'll be a miracle.
Oh no, he's not playing the semi-final.
Yeah, it's a killer.
Which is a shame. I think Rory is right. It is terrible that there is a double punishment for a person. But I think, in fairness to the GAA, if you are trying to rule out head contact, it's probably they feel it's the only way.
Yeah, I suppose we spoke about it a good bit too, lads. I suppose I'd be contradicting myself here now if I said he should get away with it when I was saying during the league that these head-high tackles have to. I suppose you're just putting yourself in a situation that you don't want it. But look, it was just a moment thing to, like, as soon as the elbow went up, no more so than as soon as Darren McCarthy's hurley went up against Cork for Tip, he was getting, and he came down, he was getting sent off. No matter.
Well, the Richie Hogan one in the 19 final, same thing.
I actually met Cathal Barrett at the match Saturday, and we were just chatting about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, has to go. Sure, we can't have them tackles." Like,
because Cathal was a beacon of good behaviour on the field.
I don't think he ever even got booked, I'd say.
It is, look, you're right though, because it changes the whole trajectory of it, because I wonder now, without Chris Crummey, if he is that crucial to Dublin hurling, which he obviously has been, as Rory said, over all these years. Shane, is it a different prospect for them to go and try to beat Cork now without him?
Sure it is. Like, he's just a spiritual leader, like, and I'm sure, like, you know, you don't have to say we want to do it for Chris, like, because they do, like, because, like, as Rory said, I think consistency wise and performance wise for Dublin is as good as they've ever been in terms of their hurling team. Even on the broader scale, I think this guy is, you know, if he's with another group and they're winning All Irelands, like, he's getting All Stars, and that's just the kind of player he is. Like, but I'd say, look, they'll want to win it for him. It is a harder prospect to do it, but, like, does the emotional side of it take over? I don't think so. I don't think it does. I think they'll still have to set out their stall and how they're going to beat Cork. I think physically they're going to be able to match them. Pace-wise, they're going to be able to match them. It's on in Croke Park. They both love playing in Croke Park. So I'm sure it's probably nearly sold out, lads, is it? I'm not sure with the tickets.
Yeah.
Well, the general sale of tickets are gone. So it's just the club allocations that are left.
So you have the what they call it, the actual capital and the real capital now. That's what I'm hearing.
That's just something we say to wind up Dublin taxi drivers.
It's coming together. So, you know, you're going to have, like, you know, the two cities playing each other in a massive hurling match. it's been a good while, I suppose, since we had that. And if you think about it, the last time Dublin got to an All-Ireland semi-final, it was nearly a tip fella that ruined your chances of getting to the final. So I know he won't like me saying that now, Mr. Ryan O'Dwyer, but he said a few things about me recently, so I'll have no bother saying it. And I've never have any bother saying it to Dalo either, that even when you weren't playing tip or tip weren't involved, we still made sure that a Clare fella wasn't getting to an All-Ireland final.
Funny, I actually heard Ryan O'Dwyer saying today that he thinks what this Dublin team have done is actually even bigger than what the Dublin team he was part of did. And that was a team full of all-stars too, Shane. So who knows what their ceiling is, but it is an All-Ireland semi-final. Let's move on to the other game before we forget about ye waiting in the long grass. I suspect now ye are jumping out of the nettles rather than hiding in the long grass now, because I think that performance by Tipperary has just reminded people that maybe finishing in third, doing your business quietly, winning with the under-20s, and just finding your way into where people thought you were going to be anyway, I think has been a great passage for Tipperary. And I think a lot of people might feel now there's signs in Tipperary that are proving to people that ye are ready to go.
Perhaps.
Come on, ye are. It's there, Shane.
I tell you what, though, I'll tell you small things like this, right? I've seen tip flags going up in houses that I haven't seen going up in the last maybe 5 or 6 years. I've seen people wearing tip tops, tip polo shirts to work, out and about, doing the shopping. And there's a good feeling around about the group. And I'll tell you why. Everyone there, do you know what the biggest roar the night in the Gaelic grounds was, Jacqui, apart from the Limerick result getting called out, right? The biggest roar was when Owen Connolly got a hook, right? It was coming into the last 15 minutes of the game. Owen Connolly chased back the whole way. I believe Keenan Fahy had the ball. He didn't give up the ghost, got a hook, the ball goes out wide. Now, there could be 11 points in at the time. And that was the biggest roar from where I was in the Mackey stand nearly for the whole match, right? Apart from maybe Noel coming on. And that just I think emphasizes where the tip public are at with the team at the moment. They love their work rate. They love their honesty. I love listening to the younger lads doing their interviews after the matches. The Sam O'Farrells, the Darren McCarthy's, the Robert Dials. And the common theme the whole time is we're so proud to play for tip. We love playing for tip. It's not like, training, we're talking about training or talking about other things they're giving up. All of them are saying the same thing. So proud to play for tip. We love playing for tip. We'll do whatever we can, kind of for the group. And it's just a kind of maturity with them. The 20s are a really good group. We see 5 or 6 of them are involved now with the senior panel. We see Noel coming on making an impact. We see Jake Morris in all-star form. We see Andrew Ormond in all-star form. John McGrath has returned to his brilliant best for tip for the first time in a few years. Jason Ford is now as accurate and as fresh and as lively as I've seen him in a long time. Ronan, Craig. So, they're in a good place. Like I still do think, right, not to be blowing smoke here now, but I still do think Kilkenny are going to be slight favourites going into the match. Because, they've breezed through the Leinster Championship. Where I'm coming from as a tip person is, okay, what are you thinking? Tip Kilkenny just takes on a life of its own anyway, regardless of whatever has happened beforehand. Both sets of fans will feel they can win the game, both sets of players, both sets of management. Tip have had a fair few tests now. So we know when it comes down to the crunch, can Tip do it? I think we've seen it. If it comes down to the crunch, can Kilkenny do it? Yeah, they can, because they're just Kilkenny, but they just haven't had to do it yet this year, Jacqui, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So if you go through their round robins, they haven't, no one has come with it anywhere near them, really. And that's not their fault. That's just, they're just by far the best in Leinster. And I was just waiting for all the abuse to come my way.
Well, I was thinking that, because
Galway
what?
had beaten Tip on
Well,
Saturday.
they were all, and it's funny because
Championship.
even Jacqui Tyrrell was sitting there, and they're all obviously waiting for Limerick. Like last week, he's talking about Kilkenny, Limerick. Imagine all the Kilkenny fans sitting thinking that they're getting them, and then they get their greatest rivals of all time in an All-Ireland semi-final. It's nearly double.
I was walking out along saying, if Galway win this, the abuse I'm going to get over talk about the Munster Hurling Championship, and out of the last 4, there's going to be what you call 3 of them from Leinster.
3 of them.
But it's like the last 4 teams, And when you consider Cork, Tip, Kilkenny are in there, and I was doing a very quick sums there earlier on, Jacqui, and between the four teams, it's something like 120 years since any of them have won the All-Ireland, and Tip are the most recent winners 6 years ago. Like it is freshness. I know people, and I know people might say, well, the hurling championship and the football championship and all that type of stuff. I think the hurling championship has been outstanding.
Yeah, it has.
Outstanding. And there's still 3 epics to come.
Yeah.
And I'm going both days. I'm going in for both days for Cork, Dublin and for Tip Kilkenny, because like Tip Kilkenny is just one of those fixtures that you grow up on. Like it's a storied fixture. Tip Kilkenny is hurling.
Yeah. It is. It's,
yeah, I suppose. Yeah,
it is, Shane. It's one of the greatest
look,
sporting rivalries we have. It's like a Cork, Kerry, a Dublin, Meath, or whatever. Tip Kilkenny is one of those Irish sporting memories that everybody remembers.
Look, it has, and look, there was a time there where I think it might have been over an 8 or 9 year period that if there was like maybe 18 national finals between National League and All Ireland Senior finals, that maybe it was Tip and Kilkenny and 11 or 12 of them kind of thing. So. Look, there's a massive rivalry between them. Like I do think Tipper in a good place going into it. It'll be brilliant. It really, really will. I just talk about Galway for a second, Jacqui, if I could. In terms of a game, like geez, the weather was very heavy now in Limerick, and it threatened rain, did rain a bit. It was a very, very boring game. And I know that might sound ridiculous, some people to say, but it was like it never really took off life. It's not Tip's fault. And I was just thinking about it during the week, like where are Galway at right now? And I'll be honest now, I think Galway are at right now where Tip were at maybe 2-3 years ago, in regards that there was still a kind of a cohort of players there that they were dependent on, but the thing had moved on. And maybe we, like at the time, and I'm a firm believer of this now, at the time, we didn't have better players than the older lads there to come in and be on the team. Because let's be honest, the managers would be picking them if they were. And I think that's where Galway are at right now. Like, I think people are saying about Davy Burke and David Burke and maybe Conor Cooney to a lesser extent, or I won't say Colin Mannion because, like, geez, he's one more. If he'd gone on another round, he's probably in Hurler of the Year territory. Definitely. But like these kind of lads, Conor Whelan to a lesser extent, but they're saying, oh, they keep going back to these lads, and maybe these lads should have been moved on. I think those lads would have been moved on if there was better lads to replace them. But right now, I just don't think they're there. Like, they might come maybe in a couple of years, but I just think that's where Galway are at. And I know, I think they're in a similar place to where Tip were maybe 3 years ago. Or even if you go back to 2 years ago, where in the same fixture, in the same grounds, and Galway come and beat Tip. And like in Tip, then there's like everyone's wondering what's going on or what's happening. And then last year in Tip, it's like, geez, hammered by Cork. We don't know what's happening and where's this going to come. But it will take time, like. And like say, where Tip are at now, it took time. And it did take patience. And it did take a lot of questions of a lot of people being asked, including Liam Cahill, because people mightn't realise what they were trying to do or trying to build. But we can see now the group is there and there's a good group coming. We're not going to say they're going to dominate hurling. Like, they're not. They still have to go and win things. But they're in a good place. I just think Galway are in that place where Tip were 3 years ago. And what's that going to take from Micheál? It's going to take a bit more patience from people, Jacqui, I believe. And, the likes of
they seem to have given him that, though, with the 4-year contract in the first place.
Yeah. But I say it's the likes of the Colin Malloy now. Like, Colin Malloy was very impressive the other day. To the wider hurling world, he's not a known, but I mean, took his goal absolutely brilliantly. And then, like, say, Ronan Glennon getting more time, and, Rory, Burke, Tyrone, Killeen, Declan McLaughlin. Like, these lads will have to, they'll have to step in now, and they'll have to take over from the Dahi Burks, the David Burks, as I've mentioned, like Conor Whelan to a much lesser extent. But that's where I think they're at. Like, it just, there was no, I tell you now, lads, there was hardly any Galway fans at the match.
Yeah.
Like, it was, if there, I think
small
it was
crowd in general, wasn't it?
16,000 at it.
Yeah.
I'd say at least 12, 13,000 at his Tip. And you had a smattering, as I say, of Limerick people who went to it rather than going to Dublin. But it just, I'm talking to Galway people on the way out, Jacqui. They're just genuinely kind of upset at knowing, like, what's going on, or where's it going, or why are we asking the same lads to do the same thing for the last 10, 15 years? And I think they don't know what's going on, but I do think it will come again for them because they just have so much talent. I just do think it's going to take a little bit longer than maybe what everyone thought when Micheál Donoghue got the job at the end of last year.
Patience is a virtue that sports people generally aren't blessed with, though, Rory. That's the problem. When you're in a county like Galway and people see the tradition of hurlers that they have had that just don't seem to be there right now to replace those players, I know the county board might feel that they are being patient. I just don't know if the fans have the same level of that.
Yeah, and look, I don't think any Galway supporter can crib or whinge too much given the paltry nature of the support that they got on Saturdays, particularly. Now, look, the venue, I mean, you could make an argument, but I suppose this is all very much Monday morning quarterback stuff, though. Would it have been better to play the match in Ennis?
No, I tell you, I think the Galway hurling people, they'd be down that motorway there as quick as most
Would
people
they?
from Tip,
Okay.
and they'd be down in the Gaelic grounds, Rory. I just think,
Fair enough.
I honestly feel, Rory, the public just don't believe in this group, or they're not supporting them, and it is sad, like, because that, as I said, I've seen that myself in Tip as a player, and I seen it firsthand the other night as going into the match, like.
Yeah. No, the only thing that you would have to say to a certain extent, like, it's a big jewel county. Their footballers are going really well as well. We know, as Donal very, very eloquently puts in the microwave championship that we have, people are, expected to pay for match tickets for, out of the one paycheck. Their footballers were over in Newry. They brought a big crowd to Newry, to be fair. They've been up and down the roads of Ireland in different venues. And look, the support base might be slightly different, but it is largely, particularly, we'll say, it will be largely the same people that will like to support both. So you'd have to cut them a small bit of slack on that side of things. But support makes a huge difference. It makes a massive, massive difference. And we'll probably see it in the semi-final, where you could potentially see a Dublin team going into Croke Park and for the first time ever feel like the away team.
Yeah,
but sure, as I said, like, you get the tickets 3 days before everyone else, don't you?
yeah.
Isn't that right? No.
It comes with being the real capital, Shane. That's part of the kudos, Look, you know what? It was a brilliant weekend. And I do think it's hard to find a situation where you end up on a Monday reflecting on, do we have the 8 best teams left in the football championship? Do we have the 4 best teams left in the hurling championship? And I think all of those questions, Shane, are constantly kind of thrown at the GAA as to be some sort of thing of, oh, is it going to be the best championship of all time? I actually just think, given the nature of the new rules, as you guys have said, the hurling drama has found a way to reinvigorate people who maybe were getting sidetracked by the big ball and all of the things that it has given us. I do think this weekend has just kind of reminded people that we are going to have 2 more brilliant knockout games on one weekend and one thriller of an All-Ireland hurling final, with a county ending an enormous drought, whichever of the
one
4
way or the other.
it is.
Yeah, I know, 100%. And look, Jacqui, I'm a firm believer that the best team win the All-Ireland every single year. Based on the day, and just you're either win or you don't, what's at stake. Even I look back to 2019, last time we won it, and a lot of people are saying, if Limerick had beat Kilkenny, they probably would have hammered Tip in the final. They didn't, and Tip won the All-Ireland. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. Tip were All-Ireland champions 2019, and whoever wins in 2025, they will be the best team in the country. Clare were the best team in the country last year. They weren't this year, but they were the All-Ireland champions. So I think it's just a festival of hurling. That's what it is. And I would encourage anybody, like, if they were, thinking of making a weekend or something, and like the crack you would have around after the game Saturday night, and then if you're around Sunday night, some great spots, some great tip spots. So I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it might be on duty one day and going as a fan another day or whatever it is, but I just can't wait to get up there. Like, so it's going to be unreal. And even this weekend, Jacqui, like, the minor final is going to be unreal.
Clare against
for
Watford.
for one of those
Wow.
counties. Like, I mean, because I suppose everybody, like, a lot of people will kind of lean towards Watford because they haven't won it in so long. And, Clare have their minor and they're under their title, their All-Ireland titles and their senior titles. So I think that's going to be brilliant as well. So, like, in terms of hurling, I think what happened at the weekend for the likes of Willie Maher and these guys who want to promote hurling, they could not have asked for a better thing than Dublin being in an All-Ireland semi-final now.
And this is on the back of Kildare winning the Joe McDonagh Cup
Yes, yeah.
a couple of weeks. Like, this has been an unbelievable year for hurling, Jacqui. An unbelievable year. It's
Down,
been
even
fantastic.
down
Down getting
like,
promoted. This, I think sometimes, we tend to forget how good the hurling championship is just because, one or two matches mightn't necessarily float people's boats. It's been absolutely stellar.
Look, it's brilliant,
it really has. Well, we look forward to the remainder of it. It is going to be absolutely cracking. Shane, thanks a million for being with us.
Yeah. Lads,
Enjoy.
Go on. You were saying ye seen Nirvana in, what's it called?
Sir
Rory's
Henry's.
older than me now.
Right. Yeah, I am a bit older.
I wasn't there that
older.
night.
Right.
I did hear about it.
I have one fee, right? And this is a fact. I was there. Ye seen Nirvana in Sir Henry's. I seen Meatloaf in Buck's nightclub in Dundrum in West Tipperary. There you go, lads. That one won't be beaten.
What year was that?
I prefer not to say.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I probably shouldn't have been in an over 18 area.
When you were 12. Yeah.
When I was 16.
Brilliant. Oh, we'll leave people go Googling that one and reliving some magic memories from all of them. Thanks a million for being with us.
All right, lads.
We'll talk to you soon, Shane. And to everybody else, have a great week. And we'll talk to you on Thursday to look ahead to the weekend's football.
Dublin lead by a point. And there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.